Hey y'all, it's Andy from Ant Panda. We got another recipe we're going to actually be doing today in this particular video from the cookbook of recipes from Sanctuary. In this one, it's going to be Ira's Plum and Honey Cake. So let's take a look and see what we got in stored and how we can make this very intense, complicated, yet simple recipe from the world of Sanctuary. Yes, we are back in the Slaughtered Calf Inn with Ira's Plum and Honey Cake. This is a cake that's actually been emphasized in the lore. Plums and honey are sweet enough to lure in any weary traveler, but when spiced with cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and cloves, well, Ira tells me that she has had patrons traverse half the kingdom to feast on her plum and honey cake. I once entered the Slaughtered Calf to the early afternoon when Ira had traded her bar rag for an apron and baked a fresh batch. Her patrons looked near to fighting for the last slice before she promised another round the following morn. This dessert disappears quickly as coin before a cup purse. Now, the ingredients for Ira's Plum and Honey Cakes starts with a tablespoon of ground cinnamon, half teaspoon of ground ginger, a fourth a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, a fourth teaspoon of ground cloves, table salt of a half teaspoon, 3/4 a cup of whole milk, and then also 8 to 10 fresh plums pitted and sliced, which is what we're doing here. Instead of plums, though, we're using prunes. We have a cup of sugar. We also have 2 cups of flour, all-purpose, as well as a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So what you're going to do first is you're going to preheat the oven to 350. In a large mixing bowl, beat the sugar and oil together until it's combined in a nice kind of layout, what we're seeing here. We'll add the eggs slowly, one at a time, beating well after each addition, just to make sure there's no air pockets, and also making sure that it's nicely mixed together, as you can see, which is the first egg, and now the second egg itself. Once you do that second egg, of course, beat again just to make sure that it is nicely mixed together. Once that's done, you'll want to make sure that it's just completely mixed up, and then slowly add the milk and combine it. You'll keep mixing it together to make sure it is like so, and then you'll include the vanilla extract, which is 1 teaspoon. Mix that together as well just to make sure it's nice and combined, and then you'll set that aside. In a separate mixing bowl, you'll go ahead and whisk together the flour, baking powder, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, cloves, and salt, which is what we're seeing here, all combined together in a nice dry powder form. Next, you're going to gradually take the dry and the wet ingredients, and while you add the dry ingredients, I did it kind of in an interval. You'll mix as you kind of add additional together all the way through until you include all the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients, which is what we're seeing here. Once it's all added together, you're going to want to make sure that you do a nice beating and make sure that it's nice and mixed together, so there is a lack of air pockets when at all possible. Then you're going to pour half the batter together first, and then once it's poured in using the back of the spoon, you're going to want to put your plums, or in this case the prunes, into a nice little round presentable order, which I do a terrible job at. However, it's not too bad. But please keep in mind when you do this is the first layer, as you're only including half. You'll then include the next half as another layer, like so, with the back of the spoon, and then make sure and include more plums or prunes. And again, you'll want to make sure that you include it in the same fashion to make it nice and good looking, despite what mine looks like, as it's pretty awful. After the baking is commenced, you'll put it in there for about 50 to 60 minutes. You'll use a toothpick to insert into it and make sure that it's somewhat clean. If it's ultimately super clean, you might have overbaked it, so make sure you check periodically. Next, you're going to drizzle the honey of 7 to 8 tablespoons of honey on top. This ensures that it gets nice in there as well as gets mixed into the top, so you have a nice honey layer glaze as well as it is kind of mixing in with some of the crevices of the plums or the prunes in this case. Once you include all that together, let the cake sit and cool for 10 minutes. If you want to try to keep it together, which is what I did, you'll want to actually take a plate, plop it down, top down, and then plop it back over onto the plate in order to make sure and keep its shape and keep its look. This came out actually pretty amazing.
Oh.
And I actually think even though it's prunes instead of plums, it actually came out better in a sense because it's just a little bit sweeter of a taste, but also with it being in the sanctuary and as terrible as it is in the world of Diablo, I think it might make sense more to put prunes in it, but you be the judge. We'll probably try this again with some actual plums, just kind of see, but it came out pretty close to the same. However, it did come out just a little different, but anyway, great recipe, easy to do, highly encourage it. I'll catch you in the next.